Good morning, everybody. I actually should probably say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to our Global Symposium on Talent-Driven Innovation. What a fantastic facility we have here at the museum. And part of the benefit to that is at the Manufacturing Institute, we really always like to push the boundaries of engagement. So as we thought about the opportunity to launch a global dialogue, recognizing that the challenges manufacturers face are not just problems within the borders of this country, but they are the ecosystem of the world's manufacturing economy. And the importance of that was to bring together thought leaders from around the globe. So as I say good evening, I will acknowledge our participants from India. By the time they step on stage in our monitors today, it'll be midnight. And what that actually tells me is we're all in the room for the right reason. So I had the opportunity to visit with many of our guests, good friends, some and many for a long time. And actually, in looking around the room, a lot of new faces. And what we recognize is the importance of manufacturing, the importance to this country, the importance to every country, to every community, and to every individual employed in our facilities. Because what we recognize about manufacturing is it builds nations. So we are honored and pleased today to bring together our global dialogue. Most important, we're pleased to do it in partnership. We could not have done today's session without the support of Deloitte and the research that you'll hear from this morning, and without the support and leadership of the Alcoa Foundation. Because on behalf of manufacturers in this country, they stood as one of our nation's employers and said it's time for change. And what's really interesting is as I circulated the room this morning and had conversations with many of you, the theme was common. No longer can it be about business as usual, and how do we do this together? And that's really the purpose of today. For any of you that showed up to think that I was going to stand at the podium and give you the answer, you're in the wrong meeting. Because we're actually expecting active participation. Because what we know about manufacturing is it has in fact been the greatest contributor to global prosperity. When we look at it from a US perspective, for every dollar invested in manufacturing, $1.48 of output in other sectors. The single highest multiplier effect. What we also know about manufacturing in this country and in the world, there is one constant, and that constant is change. And in manufacturing, we're fundamentally dependent on innovation. And if I were to survey this room, I'm guessing we all would have a definition of what innovation looks like. It could be in process, it could be in product. But what I actually know about innovation is it's a human element. It's about the people that show up every single day to make a difference. It's about the one individual on the front line who does that job day in and day out, who thought if this were just different. It's also about the process of innovation. What we recognize in a global environment is the scarcity and pressures on cost. That to remain globally competitive, we're going to strive for energy efficiency. We are forever going to do what we as manufacturers do best. Figure out how to do it better. Not only that, we're going to figure out how to do it the way the customer wants it. What does that mean for us? No longer does the world of manufacturing look like our grandfather's manufacturing. Yet as we think about the public perception and what parents, teachers, and counselors think about manufacturing today, it's very different. Technology drives manufacturing. It, in fact, is the only part of this economy where you have the idea, you make it, and God bless it, if you can sell it, you've got a business. That's what manufacturing is in this economy. Yet in our 2011 Skills Gap report with Deloitte, well published, we recognize 80% of our nation's manufacturers cannot find qualified workers. 80%. Translation to 600,000 open jobs. Now, for those of you that follow the headlines, one could argue and debate what that open job number is. But let me talk to you about the impact. What does 600,000 open jobs mean? $1 million in lost revenue per company. Over $50 billion in lost exports. 0.63% of GDP. That's just in the US. The World Economic Forum actually estimates that that number globally is 10 million. Proportionate impacts in communities. And what I can tell you as we stand in this room today is, having just spent 3 days at the World Economic Forum's council session, this problem is not unique to us. In fact, one of my colleagues from Jordan, as he stood on stage, said the greatest indicator of unemployment in Jordan was a 4-year baccalaureate degree. What does that tell you about the value of work and the value of work in manufacturing? I'm sure we're going to hear it, so I'll put it out up front. People don't understand. It's not just about exciting the next generation. It's about exciting the individuals employed today. It's about ensuring that parents today become our front line of advocates, and that policy leaders across the country and across the globe, when they think of good quality jobs, they think of manufacturing. And more important for us as manufacturers, it's about a new level of cooperation. There, in fact, could be a history drawn, certainly in this country, for career and technical education. Yet over time, we've seen a decrease. Yet back to those headlines, we hear time and time again, if we just paid them more, we'd find the people. But what we know is, if I surveyed the manufacturers in this room today, and they would tell us, just have somebody show up with the basic skills, because I'll train them my way. Therefore, this requires that we as manufacturers have a new level of public-private partnership, that we look for a renewed sense of opportunity. That's really at the heart of today's discussion. The other thing we recognize is those represented in today's room are islands of excellence. We have the opportunity to showcase a few of them, but in every community somewhere across this country and around the world, these challenges have in fact been solved somewhere. And our responsibility is to connect those islands of excellence. More importantly, our responsibility is to lead. Because this is not a solutions problem, this is a leadership issue. Which means we need to be bold. And we, in fact, need to stand and set expectations. Because if our lowest denominator of expectation is attendance and drug-free, then human nature will drive individuals to the lowest sense of expectation. Therefore, we need to communicate to parents, teachers, and counselors. And we need to build bridges for our transitioning veterans. And we need to shift our thinking about what quality education looks like. Because is quality education about a 4-year degree? In some circumstances, it may be. But is it about buying a home? Sending your kids to college? That's what manufacturing offers. Today's session is designed to be interactive. We actually have Wi-Fi available. In fact, I have a note on this. On your table are connection points. I think they're going to flip up a Twitter address. Across the board, you have the opportunity, both here and virtually, to submit questions via Twitter and via email. I'd encourage you to do so. In some conferences, they actually look at laptops and think you're not paying attention. In this case, I'm actually tracking you, soon to be following you. So I encourage you to be active today. I'll also recognize that we're in search of best practices. And though we've had the opportunity to select just a few today, we really want everyone else's. So on the website is the opportunity to submit your best practice. Where has industry, the public and private sector, come together to advance this issue of closing the global skills gap for manufacturers? As you can tell, we're in the museum for a reason. Technology will be recording everything today. Proceedings will be available, and they'll be up on our website hopefully by the end of January. I also, for those of you that are on the internet and may only have Safari as your browser, no, Firefox, that was it. Firefox. Firefox is not compatible, therefore you may be having challenges. Share with a friend, borrow their laptop. The other thing I want to draw people's attention to is a manufacturing pledge. What we recognize is manufacturers are active in their communities, but people may not know. Therefore, how do we start to promote and say manufacturers do care about their skills gap and are committed to the education partnerships in their community and are committed to encouraging the next generation and to ensuring that this generation has the right skills to be competitive. I'll also note, apparently we gave you a Benny today. Though Brent will be taking attendance in the middle of today's session, you do have the chance to go through the museum, and we hope you take advantage of that for those of you that traveled. I have a couple logistics I'm supposed to make sure I cover as I set the stage and turn it over to my colleague. First off, restrooms. As for those of you that have been to Institute events, you recognize that we are nothing short of content. We have a lot of really great experts that we've assembled today. We're going to encourage active participation. Should you need a break, feel free to step out. We'll have a couple short breaks in between stage changes, but other than that, please feel free to do that. Equally, again, the Twitter address and the feed. And then submit your best practices. We're in Washington, so always important, safety first. Should there, for any reason, be an emergency, emergency exits are right back that direction. But again, for those of you that have been in an Institute event, you know everything we do starts and ends with data. What we're doing is based on what the data tells us is important for manufacturing and its global competitiveness. So to that end, I am pleased to be joined by my colleague, Craig Giffey, Vice Chairman and Leader for U.S. Consumer and Industrial Products for Deloitte. Craig's the Chairman, equally, of the Global Manufacturing Industry Practice and an Institute trustee. Craig has been a long-standing leader in Deloitte's practice on global competitiveness. Craig and I, as all of you do, share a passion about manufacturing. And to that end, Craig will set the stage for today's discussion. Craig?